Hey YouTube, welcome to Scarpad's Comic Treks. With a video I thought I'd make, I felt it was time to do it. Felt I was slacking a little bit. Of course, this weekend I'm in extreme pain. Threw my back out, pinched a nerve, so I feel all numb and I can't walk. I'm in extreme agony. So I figured it's time to talk about Star Trek Picard. You know what? I haven't talked about that in 7 weeks since the premiere of season 2. So, since I'm already in excruciating pain, I figured good time to talk about it. Also, what brought that up and figured it was time is I sat down this morning to watch Man of Steel. Never was a favorite movie of mine, but I wanted to give another shot. And I figured out watching Man of Steel, I thought about Picard. And you would think about, why you think about Picard when you think about Superman? Well, I think Superman, that movie, suffers from the same thing as Star Trek and Picard. Now, anybody knows me as I'm a lifelong Star Trek fan. I love, most of the series, some more than others. I'm not a huge Voyager fan, and Enterprise was pretty good, got better as it went along. But really, I love the original series, Next Gen, and really my favorite show is Deep Space Nine. And that could be looked at the shining beacon of how to have a semi-serialized story, but yet do self-contained stories and have well-written stories. And that's the crux of what's killing Picard. After a pretty solid opener where things look like they might be getting back to normal, the Picard crew was spread around doing various things within Starfleet. Rios went back to being a starship captain. Girardi was doing some experiments, whatever. Raffi was being annoying, but she was his first officer, I believe. Seven was out doing her rangering stuff. But something has to pull them all back together. And of course, the writers, without being able to come up with 8 or 10 individualized stories that actually can pad out a season of Picard while providing a narrative arc that changes the character from beginning to end, and all the characters from beginning to end. Of course, that's come up with, things from the past that's going to stretch out ad infinitum like Discovery did this season, where the show just went on and on and on, and coming up with new plot points every episode. And that's what Picard did. They started off with this story of the Borg contacting Picard, the Borg Queen. Picard has to go on a ship out to where the Borg is to find out what they want. In the meantime, always thinking about something that happened in his past that's causing him distress, and his commitments with Talon, or whatever her name is, his helper there. But of course, after the first episode, which introduced us to the crew and some normal things, actually doing their duties on starships, leading to a confrontation with the Borg, and unfortunately, Q. Now, I love Q, going back to the original series. It was always a good source of drama and comedy for the crew, kind of more irksome than and meddlesome than nefarious. But not for this Kurtzman Trek, who has to make Q a full-on villain, at least so far as we know. Something happening within the Q continuum, and he snaps his fingers, and Picard and company from episode 2 on has to go back to the 24th century to right some wrong that's going to affect all their lives and lead to a fascist dictatorship. Of course, they love the dark fascist governments. So they go back to 2024, where they have to go to they have to go find out this event, which after a certain date will diverge and cause the alternate future timeline that we're all seeing. Fortunately, all the crew has come along with them, and they're all in 7-9 is the president of the whatever, she's the president of the fascist dictatorship, the Confederation. Right on the nose. Fortunately, so they can be involved in on all the higher up stuff, and all the crew conveniently remembers the real timeline and what they have to do, and they have to go back to Earth in 2024, which saves them a bucket load of money, because from that episode on, it's been all location shooting, and really the writers of this stuff now. I guess the directors. There's been two directors, one director for 2 episodes for like the first 7 episodes. They're filming them back to back, and they're all being written by different people. But my God, I mean, they started off with that plot with Picard having to go back and do something in his past with his mom, and then it was his niece where they have to get her to go into space, and otherwise this is going to happen, or it's going to be something with Guinan. I mean, literally episode to episode, they just went on, just coming up with one insane plot device to the next. Sprinkled in as a ton of like fan service, past memories, name drops, stuff that substitutes for clever writing in this show, because if you drop enough names or links to the past, then then you're fine. I mean, people consider you having a good writing. And there's, of course, they have to go to this event, and it almost turns into like a Ocean's 11 type parody. It's dreadful. I mean, it's simply dreadful with bad acting. Patrick Stewart looks old, worn out. There's no energy. The humor's lame. There's a lot of callbacks to Star Trek 4 with the punk rocker on the bus, and Rios even emulating Kirk's I work in outer space line. Rios just decides to bring his girlfriend of the past and her son to the spaceship. Well, let him touch everything and just kind of like, hang around. None of it makes any sense. It's an utter, complete disaster. But it borders on, every one of these crew having some sort of tragedy, some sort of thing in their life which has caused, them to have to resolve all these issues. Everybody has to have a hidden trauma in this Kurtzman Star Trek. That's how it was for Discovery, and that's how it was for this. Q poses as a psychiatrist, and they bring back the guy Baltar, James Callis from Battlestar Galactica, who ends up being Picard's dad in the dream that he has after he gets shot. Because they forget that the dad was already shown on Star Trek The Next Generation as being bald and an older man. And this Picard says that his father says he kept his hair. So, I mean, they don't even go back and attempt to follow up on what's already been brought up in the show. But even if they, none of this matters. If it was a well-written story, it's not. And how does this all tie into Superman? Well, in Superman, I never could get past the first, hour or so of the movie. And to me, it all goes to hell for two things. They have to invent traumas for Superman. He has to have angst. Now, of course, I understand, this was a new Superman, somebody who was just, learning of his power. But of course, they have to make him sullen and angry and depressed. Yeah, I can get it. I mean, a career Superman, after he's been doing this for 4 or 5 years, might get discouraged by all the stuff he sees. But, I mean, can't we have a little joy too? You're a superhuman. You can do all these wonderful, marvelous things. You can save people. But you have to be depressed. And it all comes from, starting off, he lets his father die. That is the one part of the movie I can't get past. Some people point to the ending where he does a certain thing, but that's almost could be justified to save the human race. This is just pointless. It's just to give the character the backstory, the trauma that they want. Because let's face it, faster than a speeding bullet, Clark Kent, Superman, can save his dad. No one would see him. They'd see a blur. And what they should have done, and they could have arrived at the same type of pathos that they wanted, is let him save his father from this horrible event, only to have him have a heart attack and pass away. And that shows the utter fruitlessness of the character. He can save lives from accidents and things all around him affecting him. Violence. Can't save life from, life. somebody can die from a heart attack and there's nothing Superman can do to stop it. Arrives at the same point. But the writers aren't smart enough to know that this is, that would be a character trait, that he would never let his father die to save his secret identity, especially when there's no point to it. It's been in evidence that he can zip in there and no one would see him. I mean, it was just utterly fruitless, pointless. And that's all what Star Trek Picard is too. And that's why I thought about this, is the whole show is pointless. There's nothing in this that points to the quality of the writing of old Star Trek, the aspirational of old Star Trek. Right now, I love Trek, and people say, "Why do you hate? If you don't like it, why you watch?" Well, because I do hope that maybe it can get better. Just like the next show that's coming on, Strange New Worlds. Can it be good? Yeah, but coming from the same crew, I kind of doubt it, because they don't understand the source material. They make characters snarky and 21st century talking because people want to identify with them, but people used to look up to these characters in the 60s and 70s because they had lives and they had professional lives and private lives that we might want to aspire. That we're maybe never going to be, but we might want to emulate. I might want to be a starship officer one day, but I don't want to be any of Picard's crew. I don't want to see myself in them. I don't want to have them all have backaches and getting out of the chair, because in the 24th century, there would be none of that. We would solve those problems. Picard's mom wouldn't be bipolar and violent because we would solve those issues. We would help people out. I just don't get what they're trying to do with the show. They take writers that write Desperate Housewives and they say, well, they can write Star Trek. We just don't care. As long as we have something to put on the screen. And it's really sad how a good cast, good people, and all that money, because the show is shot and produced very well, but the writing is what lets it down. It's not that Hollywood is too woke, although they do try to fit the agenda in there when maybe they got to realize that in the 24th century, that agenda doesn't exist anymore. People are just people, and there's no second thought about it. People don't stop and have conversations about, their all this stuff, because they just got to get on with their lives, do their duty. They're in Starfleet. They're professional officers. They don't cry all the time. They do their duty. And this show has just been, Picard is up to 8 episodes now. And basically they've changed the premise on every single one. And now we're going, I don't know what, you forget what the original plot was. You forget, what's the story here? So it's like getting into a writer's conscious stream of thoughts where it just keeps on coming out, but none of it makes any sense. So as I sit here in pain, and I think about Star Trek, and I think about Man of Steel, and I think about our necessary writing now, where everybody has to have a trauma, everybody has to have a pain in the past. It's just bad writing, because there are other things you can do to give characters a backstory, to make characters representative of today, but tomorrow too. So yeah, 3 more episodes of Star Trek. Yeah, 3 more episodes, 8, 9, 10. I'm not holding out hope that it's going to resolve itself. And then, of course, we had the whole situation where they figured because it was just going to come out anyways, you had to go ahead and leak it. I'm just getting this image over here. Here we go. Did I lose it? I may have lost it. No, there we go. They announced, of course, that the entire crew is going to come back in season 3 for a grand send-off. And I feel bad for these guys, because if it's going to be the send-off that they've given the other characters, it's not going to be pretty. And I do have the kind of the feeling what they're going to do here is they're going to have, from what I can see, their take on Bicentennial Man, where Picard will, because he is kind of a synth now, will be old to the point where he has to be switched off, and they all have to come and do it for him. Somehow they get data in there somehow, even though he's been switched off himself, and Maybe they'll bring back one of the Soongs to redeem himself and say, I'm the only good Soong in the family. Please, let me help turn Jean-Luc off. I don't know what they're going to do. I much don't care. I'll watch it because I hope it's good, but my God, I mean, they just can't do anything right on the show. So that's where I am with Star Trek Picard and where I am with still Man of Steel. Still not my favorite Superman movie. I can't get past the point of that whole father stuff. So that's all I want to pop in here and say today. I hope you guys are doing well. Like and subscribe if you like the videos I make here. Hopefully I'll be able to walk at some point. We shall see. So we'll catch y'all later and keep on trekking.